I'm currently in a minimum security prison, which is why I'm able to use a cell phone to write this. I have 3 years left on my sentence if things don't go in my favor. Since I got here, I've made some big changes. I've lost 40 pounds, gotten my blood pressure under control, and I'm much more physically fit. I can walk 20 miles around the prison without stopping, which is something I never thought I could do. I've also overcome my depression, which is a huge relief. Being in jail has surprisingly improved my relationship with my family. Things are much better now than when I was outside. To be honest, I can't think of any downsides to being in jail. I'm looking forward to getting out, but I'm worried that I might go back to feeling unhappy and unfulfilled like I did when I was free. I hope I can stay positive and motivated when I get out. One reason I'm not feeling depressed is that I've read many self-help and philosophy books while in jail. The prison library has a wide selection of these books, and they've really helped me. I've become a very positive person, and I'm determined not to go back to thinking negatively and giving up easily like I used to when I was outside. I'm focused on staying positive and making good choices. Story 2. I'm 20 years old, and I've been dating my boyfriend for 3 years. I met him when I was 17, and he was 26. Now he's 29. Honestly, I hate him. I can't stand him. He's lazy and not smart. He doesn't take care of himself, so he often smells bad and has yellow stuff built up on his teeth. His hair is thinning and it sticks out in a weird way, making him look like a crazy clown. He didn't finish college the first 2 times he tried, but now he's trying again. He's obsessed with video games, which is all he really cares about. He rarely wants to go for walks or hang out with our friends. He's always struggling financially and doesn't even have a car. His room is a disaster. It's always messy and disgusting, and it makes my skin crawl. I know I don't want to spend my life with him. Intimacy with him is a turn-off he struggles with finishing, and it takes him a long time. It feels like a chore. He thinks lily ponds and couple prank videos are hilarious, and he's into edgy dark humor. I regret meeting him and wasting my time dating him. I regret spending most of my college experience chasing after someone who's going nowhere. It makes me feel like a loser too. After I graduate, I'm moving to New York. I plan to break up with him before graduation, pretend to be friends for a few months, and then cut him off completely once I move. I can't wait to leave him in the past. I regret ever meeting him and getting to know him. Story 3. My dad is like a 40-year-old child. He still lives with his mom and relies on her money. He complains all the time like a kid and always thinks it's someone else's fault. My dad recently had a meltdown because his phone died and wouldn't turn back on. He acted like his whole world had ended, and it was a huge crisis for him. The problem is that he won't take responsibility for forgetting his password, which is why his phone won't turn on. Instead, he's walking around the house, complaining about the phone company, Metro, and saying they're to blame, claiming it's all bullshit. He keeps ranting and threatening to disappear for a long time. He's also blaming God for his problems, saying he'd slap God if he ever met him. He even claims he'd burn down all the churches and Bibles in America because, in his mind, it's God's fault that he's not getting his way. This shows just how childish and irrational he's being. Another example of his immaturity is his homophobia. Whenever something doesn't go his way, or he thinks something is stupid, he calls it gay. He also uses slurs and blames gay people for his problems, saying they're the reason he's not getting what he wants. This is just another sign of his childish behavior. Note I've kept the language mild to avoid using harmful slurs. My dad's childish behavior is evident in many ways. For instance, when he plays video games and things don't go his way, he blames the nerds for his own inability to solve a simple puzzle. He then goes on to complain about how Microsoft is terrible and claims that if he ever met Bill Gates, he'd hurt him. According to him, it's Bill Gates' fault that he can't afford certain game features or subscriptions, like DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Game Pass. He always finds someone else to blame for his own problems. My dad can't get his hands on his vices: beer, weed, cigarettes, vapes, and other stuff, so he blames everyone else for his addiction. But the truth is, he refuses to admit he's addicted. At the end of every month, he goes on a rant about how he's done being nice and cooking for others because, once again, things didn't go his way. It's always someone else's fault, never his own. So, now we're almost out of food and everything needs to be cooked, but I'll take care of it. We're also out of money, and of course it's not his fault that he blew it all in the first week of the month on his addictions instead of essentials like food. It's a pattern I've seen before at the beginning of every month. He's a fun guy to be around because he's got all his vices, but he's not a responsible dad. As the month goes on and his addictions run out, his true colors show. My dad still refuses to take responsibility for his actions, and it's astonishing that he's still like this well into his 40s. He's had decades to mature and grow up, but he's still stuck in a state of denial and blame shifting. In summary, my dad's behavior has been consistently immature and irresponsible, and this is just a snapshot of his recent actions. If I were to delve into his past behavior, it would be a much longer and more troubling list. Unfortunately, he's shown no signs of changing or growing up, and it's clear that he's not a good person. Story 4. I'm an 18-year-old girl, and my life is a total mess. I want to warn you that my story involves some heavy stuff, like drugs, abuse, drinking, smoking, and maybe some sexual abuse. Okay, so let me start from the beginning. When I was a kid, my dad was like a hero to me. But he had a dark side. No matter how many times he hit me, he said it was to make me stronger. Every time he yelled at me, he claimed it was to boost my confidence. And every time he touched me in ways that didn't feel right, he said it was to prepare me for life. When I was a kid, my dad would often find excuses to hit me. He'd use his hands or sometimes even objects to hurt me. He always made me feel like it was my fault and that I deserved to be punished. He claimed to have quit using drugs and drinking, but he still smoked and would even let me try his cigarettes, saying it wasn't as harmful. But the truth is, he wasn't a good parent, and he lost custody of me right away. Luckily, my grandparents adopted me and took care of me. Even though my grandparents adopted me, I still had a lot of contact with my dad, probably too much. But last year, something scary happened. He bought drugs while I was sleeping in the back of his car, and everything fell apart. I found out he had been using drugs the whole time, and I already knew he was drinking. So I decided to cut ties with him. But now that I'm 18, I'm struggling to shake him off. Deep down, I still wish we had a normal father-daughter relationship, even if it means getting hurt again. I know I shouldn't want that, but I can't help how I feel. That's why I'm reaching out for help. Can anyone offer some advice on how to deal with this situation?